What it do, what it do, what it do, your boy Daru on another episode on Therapy Hub from me to you. We're here to transform the mind and heal the soul. So welcome back to the podcast. And we get real about life and growth and the people that we surround ourselves with. That's a part of Therapy Hub. So for anybody that's been tapping in and for anybody that's been watching, we thank you so much. And for those who are, tapping in for the first time, please like, subscribe, and comment because it is absolutely free. Now, today's topic is one that quietly shapes everything, your peace, shapes everything around your peace and confidence and even your future. Okay. Now, that's the value of relationships. The truth is, not all relationships are meant to nurture you. Some drain you, some confuse you, and some slowly break you down without you even realizing it. And that's what a lot of people nowadays face. Okay, and that's why Therapy Hub, we're here because we want to let everybody know that we're not alone. We're all in this together. Now, today we're going to dive into something powerful. Okay, so we want to recognize or how to recognize the unsafe people and why knowing the difference can change and shape your life. Now, you see, unsafe people don't always look toxic at first. And I talked about this in the last episode when we talked about even in the Bible. And in the Bible, um, there's a part where they describe an angel or the devil disguising himself as an angel. And sometimes in life, we encounter people like that because, and it's not necessarily they're disguising themselves as an angel, but in the beginning, things always seem great, things always seem wonderful, and then as time goes by, people's patterns generally show. So when patterns reveal everything, then that's a time when we really got to start paying attention. So that's why when I spoke about the three types of uh, unsafe people that we do need to pay attention to, which was the critic, the irresponsible, and the abandoner. This was to kind of break down the rest of the series because those are the three main characters that are in everybody. And sometimes when we deal with these characters, it can kind of shape ourselves to be that character as well without us even realizing it. So we can become the abandoner, we can become the irresponsible person, or we can become the critic. But I want to break down the actual meaning of these three elements or these three components of unsafe people and valuing relationships because we don't always necessarily know the difference between constructive criticism and negative criticism, as I explained in the last episode, and as well as being abandoned and also being an abandoner. So we're going to get into those topics. So, of course, number one is the critic, and that's who always consistently tears you down, disguising judgment versus honesty. That person is someone who consistently believes that whatever you are doing is not good enough. Okay. Or they just tend to always want to just tear you down all the time. Now, number two is the abandoner. Now, the abandoner is what we're going to get into today. We're going to actually um, summarize most of the episode today on the abandoner. Okay. Now, this person is, this is why I wanted to start because this is something that generally is the root cause to a lot of our mental health and a lot of our traumas because this comes from typically family members and within itself. So we're going to get into that. And, people usually disappear when you need them the most, leaving you feeling unsupported and that type of stuff. Those are the things that people who are going through abandonment face when they're dealing with abandoners. And then number three, you have the irresponsible. Okay. And we discussed this as well. The one who avoids accountability, shifts the blame on somebody else, and then creates chaos when you somehow end up cleaning up. Now, I love this segment that I'm doing on value relationships. And the reason why is because it's actually shaping me to realize that, hey, I sometimes am this person and I sometimes can be this person to other people. And I don't want to be that way. And in order for me to lead, in order for me to be able to teach others, especially on this show, I got to practice it myself. So this is a great way and a great strategy for me as well. But before we dive into it, I just want to shout out my sponsors. I want to shout out um, one of our main sponsors, and he's been doing wonderful things when it in regards to his his store and providing healthy nutrition foods for animals. And it's a local store, and we always like to support local people. And the best thing about this store is that it is 10% off if you buy any supplies. All right. Now, the name of the store is Bark and Scratch Pet Foods Ltd. Now, it's located at 2404 Danforth Avenue East in East York between Main Street and Woodbine Avenue. And they sell all kinds of high end products and mostly Canadian products from Borel, Acana, and much more. Okay. So if you want 10% off, because everybody has an animal, and I'm serious when it comes to this, because on this show I like to promote, you know, the good things, the healthy things for us, and for humankind, and not just for humankind, also for animals as well. And so this place provides very good nutrition foods. I buy my cat food there because my cat's on a special diet, and it's been working well. So I highly suggest those who have animals, and if you want to feed your animals with the right foods and the right nutrition, I suggest you head on over to Bark and Scratch because they have all the high end brands that you need for your pet supplies. Okay, 2404 Danforth Avenue Road. All right. Or sorry, Danforth Avenue in East York. My advertising is a little off today. I'm sorry. We're gonna get used to that as well, and I'm gonna nail. I might even just break them up, and we'll have different segments for the commercials and different places in the studio and that type of thing. We're getting there. We're getting there. Um, I like how the scene is today. Change of environment is what we need. All right. Now we're going to dive into our topic of today. But before I do that, very quickly, I also wanted to say about, I just wanted to mention to everybody about the candle. So everybody notices this candle, it's usually not lit. The reason why it's not lit during sessions, because we're going to use this candle for time of peace, time of silence, and time of prayer, because there are going to be some times where we honor somebody's death or birth of a child or um, a wedding, anything. Um, but not the wedding, but more of like a birth of a child or something where a therapeutic um, vibe has to be involved, and that's why we have the candle there. So for those who are saying and thinking, well, why do you never have that candle on? It's because it is only for particular sanctuary episodes that we're gonna have. Okay. Now, understanding these three patterns isn't about just labeling people as well. So I just want people to know that as well. We're not here to label anybody. It's about protecting your energy. It's about protecting your peace. It's about protecting your boundaries, your growth, okay? And also about the people around you. So this is very important because the right relationships will build you up and not break you down. That's what real relationships are for. If you are around anybody that's breaking you down and not building you up, that's not the right relationship for you. Okay. So if you ever questioned why certain relationships ever feel heavy or why you feel drained around certain people, this episode is going to be for you. All right. Now, the first question I want to ask everybody is, what do you think your biggest fear is? And do you face your problems? Okay. Now, the abandoner is something that we all fear. All right. So, talking about facing your problems and facing fears, facing the abandoner is probably the most scariest thing that any human being can encounter. And the reason why I say that is because everybody in this world doesn't want to be abandoned. You want to feel um, welcomed around people. You want to feel safe, and you also want to know that you're loved and that you're cared about. And when you're abandoned by somebody, especially a mother, father, that's the biggest fear, right? Growing up without parents, having to be, you know, having to grow up in foster care or through the system, those are signs of abandonment. And sometimes when people go through these things, they also, or sorry, when they encounter these things, they end up becoming that environment. They end up becoming that on whatever they're encountering because that's all they're used to. Now, for me, my life has been that way. Tend to, I'm a fighter. I fought since the day I was, I would say, born. Like my mother said, I was dropped on my head, all kinds of things. Okay, everybody can laugh, but it's all good, right? She'll tell you, yeah, he was dropped on his head when he was younger, right? Um, and all these things that happen to you, you end up embracing them, right? They end up becoming, it's like a culture. This is why like hip hop. And I want to jump into this very quickly because a lot of people think when it comes to hip hop, breakdancing and graffiti and all that stuff is the culture. That's not the culture. That's an element of the culture. Breakdancing, graffiti, DJing, that's just an element. That's a piece of hip hop. What makes hip hop is that. But that's not the culture. The culture is eating, sleeping, and surviving that and what you're doing. That's the culture. So hip hop culture would be getting up and, you know, listening to music and eating cereal and, hustling and, on the street corner selling mixtapes and t-shirts and that type of thing. That's the culture, right? So there's a difference between these things and we kind of have to understand that. And when we encounter certain things in our life, we need to know the difference between the elements and the culture. Okay. Now, me myself, when I used to, I how like I was a fighter when I chose to be. Okay. Now, some people may say, "Hey, that's cowardly." I even feel sometimes there have been some issues that I may have, uh, felt cowardly because of the circumstance. But in my eyes, I wasn't worried about me not being a fighter. I was worried about me not being able to defeat or being able to win whatever I was facing. And because of the fact that any time that I went up to face something, I would lose trials, court cases. And quite frankly, some of this stuff led me to plead guilty to some things that I was innocent for because of my fear of what was going to happen because it happened to me before. So I already embraced this culture and this way of living. I used to say to myself, when I get locked up, I'm never going to go for bail because I just won't get it. They always deny my bail. So what's the point? I'm not even gonna, I swear I don't even call anybody to ask to bail me out because I know that it's going to be a long process anyways. So that's something that I'm prepared for. And it's sometimes cause fear. However, um, some of the times I was just unable and didn't know what to do. That's the lack of knowing law, the lack of knowing the law, lack of not knowing the difference between you know uh, what's really my rights from what's not my rights, and these type of things can ultimately destroy you as a person because you tend to feel like you won't have a fight and that everything that you encounter is just you lose, right? And when that happens, you know, we tend to feel like we have to run every time we encounter something. So that makes us the abandoner. I notice sometimes too, like because I've been hurt so much, and a lot of people that have been hurt can probably relate to this, is because when you get hurt a lot and you've been dealing with hurt over and over and over again, you run away. right? Or you cut off the situation right away. You don't want to deal with the situation. You don't want to talk to the person about anything. You don't want to compromise. Nothing, right? And the reason for that is because of the culture and the elements that you embrace through whatever you are encountering with abandonment. So it's important that we recognize abandonment and know, okay, hey, look, I'm not going to set myself up for that. I'm going to set myself up for success. So the reason why I'm using this piece as a part of knowing unsafe people, because unsafe people can make us become unsafe, right? By becoming unsafe people ourselves. So knowing the difference between that, being able um, to evaluate it and being able to say, okay, look, you know, in life, I'm going to face my fears. In life, I'm going to encounter situations that I may not want to encounter, but I'm also going to face them and deal with them as they come versus running away from them. Okay. Now, running away doesn't always mean a bad thing. Sometimes we have to walk away from problems. Sometimes we got to, I've gotten to situations just the other day where I had to just walk away, right? Because I can't get myself into any trouble. You know what I mean? I have to just walk away. So we do get in, but that's not abandonment. You're just pretty much walking away from a situation. You're protecting your peace. So back to the beginning that that I was talking about with, life, and unsafe people don't always look toxic at first. They can seem charming, familiar, but over time, when the patterns reveal themselves, it's up to us to look at that and say, okay, whoa, 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 whoa. This is something that I cannot value. This is something that I cannot have in my life. And I have to remove myself from the situation. Because if we don't remove ourselves from the situation, then we can tend to, there's a saying, misery loves company. There's a tent, then we become it, man. Because that's just all we're around. And I think in life too, this is why I wanted to do this segment so much, because there's safe people everywhere. There's, unsafe people everywhere. So I feel like finding the right people and having the right circles around you is the best thing. I got a friend, I'm not going to mention his name, but he's going through a lot. He's going through drug addictions, and he's trying to stay clean. He really is. But his problem is the people around him and the abandonment that he's dealing with. So he has to be able, and we all gone through situations where we lose a loved one or whatever it is, and we tend to break down, and that's when we're at our lowest points, and when we tend to do things that we don't want to do, or we fall into addictions because we hit our lowest points. And mainly that's because of the surroundings and the people that we have in our lives. So if we learn to take every single piece of every piece of evaluation, or every piece that we can use to evaluate somebody, then do that. Because the quality in a person sometimes is much more greater than a reward. Okay. And what I mean by that is that becomes your greatest reward, is when you see the quality in somebody, the good quality in somebody. Now, I don't want to move a little bit, I'm getting a little bit off topic here, but in life, we face fear. Okay. So that's something that I've disproved here. But sometimes also the fear prepares us for the battle. So I want you to remember that too, because sometimes when we're involved in so much fear, and we're always in fear, we tend to like want to just face it after, right? We're just like, enough's enough, right? It's like a bear chasing you. you're going to run to a certain extent or lying or whatever until you're going to really try to you're going to get frustrated and try to defend yourself a little, right? So that's preparing yourself for a battle. And what I mean by that is that, or what I don't I mean by that is like, if you're scared of heights, you're not going to, join the next marathon to climb the CN Tower. You know what I mean? Or like you're not going to go to Center Island and join the kayak club and jump in the middle of Lake Ontario and start swimming if you don't know how to swim. I can understand, right? I'm not gonna suggest you do any of that. But what I suggest is that maybe learn how to swim, and then that can help face that fear in that way. However, that's not what I mean. What I mean is abandonment is something that every human being doesn't want. So if you start something, you're not going to finish it. So of course, you're not going to abandon, you're not going to climb the CN Tower with friends, because you might climb one with one and you're down at the bottom, the other guy's at the top and you're at the bottom. They can't help you. You got to get it on your own, right? We got to learn that people are going to come in our lives and people are going to leave our lives. And the only way that we can control that is by keeping the right people in our lives. Now, I don't know for anybody out there now, especially I'm 42, anybody out there that's within my age or older or even younger, if you've had experience with people in and out of your life all the time, this is a part of abandonment. Because when somebody comes in your life, there's only two reasons why they're coming in your life. It's because you guys connected somehow, some way, or there's a motive that they have, and that's why they're involved in your life. However, once again, that's not up to the other person. That's not the other person's fault. It's your fault, because you have to evaluate that person. And over time, like I said in the beginning, people don't always look toxic at first, right? They can be charming, they can be familiar, they can relate to you, they can even be people that you love. But then times do reveal, over time, patterns do reveal everything, and that's when you're able to make the easy decision. So just take your time with evaluating and valuing relationships. So that's why the abandoner is a huge part of the value of relationships for this segment, because it's important to know these people and to give it a little bit of time to kind of really see these people through. Okay. Now, I'll give you one big reason why people have issues with abandonment, or people fear abandonment, I should say. No one wants to be alone. Okay. Nobody wants to grow up without a mother. No one wants to grow up without a father. Nobody wants to grow up without siblings. And people that have, or that they're the only child, they wish they had siblings. I'm the only child biologically from my biological father, and I wish I had other brothers and stuff so I can relate to, because I'm the only one that has to deal with them. But I wish I had other siblings. And, my issues of abandonment from my father has created some sort of, uh, I should say, I have some sort of resentment towards him for it. And because of that, I haven't abandoned my children. And, they may feel that I have abandoned them at some times, because, my daughters always say, hey, you went to jail, and, you're always in jail, and you never were around that much. You're always in jail, which wasn't necessarily true. I was only in jail maybe twice in their lives for a long period of time, or once in their lives for a long period of time. But it seemed to them, long, because, or a lot, because it was for 4 years, right? So I missed some graduations and some things like that. right? High school, middle school graduations, going into high school. Like I only got to be there for one graduation. So when I got out, um, which was great, I enjoyed it, but I cried. I cried at her graduation, and she'll tell you. She asked me not to, but I did. I cried. I cried my eyes out because, for me, I felt like I abandoned them. Yes, I did. I felt like I did, but once again, I was in prison for something that I didn't do, so I was innocent, right? So, and I've explained that to them many times that I was in there for something that I never done. So it was kind of out of my control. Um, it, you know, so I didn't really abandon them. The system abandoned them. However, I was still responsible for the crowd and the people that put me in there, right? So my therapist always used to tell me that inside and outside. He said, Drew, like, I love you. I believe you. Your story is amazing. You can write a book, and if people would owe you lots of money if the truth came out. However, you are still responsible, and there's still accountability for you being around these people, right? Because the caliber, and you're a public figure, you're the caliber that you're in, you have to be able to you can't put yourself in amongst these people that need housing and all this stuff, because they'll cutthroat you. But like, you can't be around these people, and not to put them down, but you're in a different category. So you have to kind of be careful with some of these people, because they don't care about some, and it's unfortunate to say, but some people just, they don't have a life, right? And then they just don't care, and they're all they're out for themselves, and they don't, they need housing, or they need whatever, some money or whatever it is, they're gonna try to throw you under the bus. That's just, especially if they don't know you. They have no ties to you. They're not they've met you maybe once or twice in their life. They don't care what happens to you. So, I had to learn that, and that made me be less of a abandoner, because it made me understand. Okay, whoa, 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 whoa. Okay, all right. Look, whoa, I can win here. I can win. I have figured it out. Like, yes, okay, because I also take accountability for my actions. Like I always say, yes, I'm innocent for a lot of things. Like I just took accountability for the circle that I was in, even being innocent. But even for things that I've done that I haven't been in, I wasn't innocent for. Um, I've took full accountability for it, and I've realized that the only thing that was stopping me from growing, or the only thing that was stopping me from actually becoming something, was the people and the crowd, and the decisions that I was making with the values of the relationships that I have. All right. So once again, it starts with us. So I just wanted to get into that. We're not going to show any videos today, because I really wanted to, like, you know, stress this whole idea. And I think I was the video today. Thank God. Like John, I think John Maxwell would be very proud of me today, John. And I studied, because, I feel like the more and more we open our brain, and the more and more we feed our minds with knowledge, and feed our minds with education, and feed our minds with the truth. Because we watch social media and all this stuff on social media, it just distracts us from, and it blinds us from the truth sometimes, and what things are really is, and what life really is, right? um I see people laughing at people when they have no money. They call people broke. Oh, he's broke. I don't laugh at nobody that doesn't have no money, because money is one of the major causes stress to, or is a major causes to people's mental health. Not having the means to do what they need to do to survive. That is one of the biggest causes to mental health. So when it comes to money, I try to I try to like whoever's around me or amongst me, I try to like get them to figure it out. Be like, okay, like how can we figure out to make you a buck or to make us a like what can we do? You know, what's the next hustle? And I just want everybody to know that there's just so much things out there that you can do. Um, Go online and look online and be like, you know, just type in things I can do from home or you know, you know, businesses I can start or activities that I can enjoy while at home. And you'll see that all the stuff that comes up is actually quite interesting with some of the things that come up. And you know, it may help you. It may get, you know, you never know. It may start your next new career, or it may even, you know, start up your new hobby or something that you really love and enjoy doing. Okay. Now, I also want to say one thing before we go. I'm going to wrap it up, but the whole abandonment part, you know, this is a really good segment because this is going to manage your attachments with always giving yourself a task. Okay. And because sometimes we get too attached to things and we don't want to let go. And that's based on abandonment fear of abandonment, right? Because we're afraid of being alone, and the people that we're amongst, they may not even be the greatest people, but you know, we're gonna do with them because there's just nobody else around and nobody else is gonna want to hang around with us. And that's not necessarily true. People are gonna always love you and respect you for who you are as a person. So just be open and be genuine with people. I always say that, like, don't try to be something that you're not. You know, I always hate when people try to come off of something that they're not. I always tell people, if you want a good relationship with me, be genuine. Because the minute I notice you're fake, I cut you off. I've lost so many friends like this because they think, oh, they think that I think I'm too good for them, and it's not. I just, once again, back to the seeing people revealing their patterns, right? That happens. But for the most part, people tend to keep these people around because they're fear of abandonment. All right. This will also the mechanisms and the strategies that I'm pointing out here will also help with meeting a partner and maintaining a relationship. A lot of us men too, we have a hard time with um, you know, text mess or with texting. Some of us like to text, you know, these girls a lot and our don't text at all. Our communication sucks. Um, and the abandonment, this whole abandonment uh, segment will help with that too, because it will help you, for one, evaluate and value the right relationship and the right male or man or woman that you're looking for. And it would also help you be patient and help you just see how things go. Because I also notice people like to rush things. I used to do that because, you know, you just want to be, once again, tired of abandonment, tired of being alone. So you want to just rush and get into things. And I just kind of feel like that hurts you a lot, and it doesn't help a relationship. And quite frankly, it doesn't last in a relationship. And when relationships last longer, I've noticed when you stretch them out. So when you kind of like you communicate, but you give yourself some time to breathe and you give yourself some time to evaluate, like time to really get to know that person. And when you do, once again, then you'll kind of see the difference and everything and how everything pans out. All right. Now, my last point I wanted to mention is all the fear that we embrace from abandonment causes us to be that way as well. We run from the crazies and then we turn into the crazies. All right. Or we run from the truth. Or sorry, we want the truth and then we run from the truth. Okay. So my whole what should I say? My whole thing that I want to point to to pinpoint or to conclude, I should say. My whole point I want to conclude for this episode is being able to know what abandonment is, to recognize it, and not and for it not to cause us to be that way as well. Okay, so after realizing many things in my life and going through a lot of patterns, I tend I've noticed some things that and some traits that I was encountering, and it was starting to become a habit in my life. And because of that, and that's only because I didn't evaluate it and I didn't value the relationships that I had. And so that's very important. So I hope this helped everybody, and I hope this segment, when we conclude this segment, we're gonna get. I think the last one will be a live, so we can actually get some people on the live. So anybody that's been watching these segments and you've been liking them, because we've had lots of views and lots of likes on this segment, please share it and hop on the live so you can ask your questions if there's anything that you need to get off your chest or anything that you need to know about valuing relationships and about being abandoned. If you were abandoned and there's a question, or there's something that's bothering you that you need somebody to talk to, you can come on the show. Just let us know. You can DM us beforehand if you see this episode, and we'll send you a link, and hopefully we can interview, or you can just jump on our live. And you know we do phone calls and stuff on our live as well. So if you're on our chat, most likely you can ask to call in, and we'll send you the link to call in as well. All right. But I thank everybody for watching. And once again, like I said, please like, share, subscribe, comment. It's absolutely free. Before we go, I want everybody to see our new merch. We have our new merch that's going to be added on our YouTube channel. As you see on the screen right here, we have our X Edition Avenue Apparel trucker caps. There's a QR code. You can scan it. It goes right to our store. They're only $30, and they get shipped to you for absolutely free, no cost at all. So $30, and your shipping is absolutely free. All you got to do is scan the QR code, and you'll get our X Edition Avenue Apparel trucker caps. And we also wanted to say a shout out to our sponsor, Bark and Scratch Pet Foods Ltd., located at 2404 Danforth Avenue, in between Main and Woodbine on the north side. They have supplies from Borel, they have Acana, and much more top Canadian brand nutrition diet foods as well there as well. Anything from soft to hard foods. They have toys, they got treats, they have litter, they got everything there for dogs and cats. All right. So head on over there, 2404 Danforth Avenue, and tell them that MTV sent you, and you'll get a 10% discount. All right. On all supplies, 10%. All right. Don't forget that. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Peace and love.